had long dry spells and everything. So we've been going into different areas, different topics. We've had people from research institutions, we've had people from, you know, agricultural groups, cooperatives, and the like, to see how these different groups of people are approaching the aspect of green production. And today, in our midst, we have a special guest, but before I introduce him, I'd like to come to Charles, our resident coach. Charles, I don't know how this week ended for you, or how this week went or is ending for you and went for you. Anything you can, you know, bring to the fore on that?
Yeah, the nation will be aware that this week we had some extremely disturbing news, and something that is yet to end. We lost an epitome of private sector growth and development in the names of Keith Mwakanizi. But specifically from where I come, without Keith Mwakanizi, it would have been difficult to imagine the existence of Enterprise Uganda.
Okay.
Enterprise Uganda is a creation as a result of a discovery that privatization program, with all its good elements, was not exactly working. And it was evident from the people who took over the hotels that were run by government. They performed worse than government records. It was evident in the coffee sector, where people took over what CMBL was doing, and we had the Haji Chagulanyi, the Zigotis, the FIBA, major Ugandans who went in there and were borrowing large scale, and they could not continue to run that sector in the way it was running under cooperatives, and specifically under Coffee Marketing Board. So the question now was, structural adjustments have sounded great. What went wrong? So in there came in United Nations Development Agency called UNDP and said, we have probably a solution that fixes a gap that was not attended to as you went full blast with your privatization. And the message was that privatization calls for a strong entrepreneurial culture in the country. Not just individuals called Ochichi or Moding, Subuga, Kisito, coming and presenting themselves and saying, I'm going to run Soroti Hotel. I'm going to run Tororo Hotel. You can be given that hotel. That hotel is walls and a roof. It is the service that makes that to become a hotel. So we ignored the element of building visionary entrepreneurs. When Mwakanizi heard that, he quickly said, UNDP, how can we get this program that fixes the entrepreneurial culture of the population to come to this country? UNDP said, yes, we have got our arm, sister arm of UN called UNCTAD, and it has been spreading the installation of great institutions that address exactly that. In short, Enterprise Uganda came into being as a result of a need to fix the gap that came as a result of privatization. And when they did that, Ochichi was interviewed. I was at PTA Bank in Nairobi. I was given the job. For 5 months, I said, I'm not taking it up. I put up a few requirements here and there and saying, you know what, this looks good, but I feel you need to give me assurances on the following. When the lady who was in charge of the recruitment process at that time, she's called Sarah Kitakule, she's still in this country, she called me and said, Ochichi, you've delayed to come. It's now coming to 5 months. If you don't report, there's a second best candidate. I said, proceed. Go ahead, take the second candidate. When that message was communicated, it reached Keith Mwakanizi, who was then the Director of Economic Affairs. He touched base with the head of UN Uganda, Dauda Ture, and they said, bring a letter, bring the message from Ochichi, let's discuss this issue. They discussed the issue. Mwakanizi gives me a call and tells Ochichi, I'm coming for a board meeting at PTA Bank, because he was a member of the board of the bank where I was working. Comes there and says, Ochichi, let's have a cup of tea. And for him, everything is quick. Decisions must be reached. He said, I've come with your letter. You made specific minimums. Those have been attended to. Next week, can you report to Uganda? As they say, the rest is history. But when I came here, it was still a very strong key person to make sure that the institution took its space. Because nobody would ever know that you can build great institutions.
Yeah.
PTA Bank had just had an experiment of Yugachik and Sembule. Yugachik swallows the pain and the medicine that we gave in what it means to succeed in a growing enterprise. Sembule doesn't. And we see the two stories right there in front of us.
Yeah.
And Mwakanisi said, Ochichi, make this to work. There's so much that he did for the institution in between to make sure that we got our feet on the ground. And today, the country is having an organization I'm privileged to lead, but probably one of the finest institutions he left behind.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yes.
And I must add that actually that institution is the reason why we are here today and why the Business X-Ray is actually here to share the stories of people who are actually doing actual business work and giving the counsel. Because I know since we began these interfaces in 2020 during COVID, there were quite a number of questions that entrepreneurs were asking.
Very practical questions.
Yes. And I think we've tried to provide the answers. And today, actually, we are stretching or scaling that up into the space of faith-based institutions. Now, this is the point, viewers, when I have to introduce our guest for the day. And that's none other than Pastor Sechewa. Pastor Sechewa, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here at NTV. Good afternoon, viewers, and I want to welcome you back from church as we went praising our Lord and worshiping Him. And thank you for having me here.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
Great. Now, from that story, as you've heard, and I think, Charles, you've not shared this before, the story of how Enterprise Uganda came into being and why, you know, it is actually doing what it's doing and what it has done and the impact it's doing, you know, for the people. But I have to add that actually one of the aspects that comes out strongly is the fact that Enterprise Uganda has had this practical approach, you know, to the issues that are affecting people in business of any kind. And today, when we have Pastor Sechewa in the studio, it tells you one thing, that at the end of the day, whatever we do, it comes down to business.
Exactly.
Especially if you want it to be done sustainably.
Very true.
Indeed, I've liked the story of Pastor Sechewa, but I don't want to dilute, you know, anything. We have the man himself in the studio.
Very good.
And before we delve into any of the, you know, issues or aspects that is going to bring to the fore today, we're going to play a montage. I'll ask my producer to play for us a montage of Pastor Sechewa so that we take you down to the ground for you to get a feel of what Pastor Sechewa is doing down there, and then we come back, you know, and get those questions, those comments. This is a learning session, like all the Business X-Ray sessions are. So please just bring your pen and paper close to you. In a minute, let's have that montage play so that we pick the discussion from thereafter.
Me being a pastor, and I saw what other NGOs, the way they had organized the work, I said, okay, let me use an institution where I have authority. So my work, I embedded it into reaching out to communities through the local church. I'm an evangelical Pentecostal pastor. So I used the Pentecostal network of churches to reach out to the families. So our formula is one church, one pastor, one family. So you change one pastor, you change one congregation. When you change one congregation, you change one family plus other families in the community. So as we speak now, we have developed a network of more than 3,000 families. Now, if each one of them, you've given them an acre of coffee, so we have developed over 3,000 acres of coffee. But of course, many other farmers are far beyond 1 acre because it goes with our statistics of more than 2.8 million seedlings of coffee we have planted. And that has also pushed us to start our own nursery facilities because the demand is high. So that journey has seen us from 7 farmers to 3,000 farmers. It has seen us from 1 acre of coffee to about 10,000 acres of coffee. It has seen us from 2,100 coffee seedlings to 2.8 million seedlings. It has seen us from having people who are involved in coffee farming and they don't know marketing to have our own coffee processing plant, establishment of a coffee export system, and developing what we call traceability. Traceability is very key in this work, because if farmers are traced back, for instance, if I sell a container of coffee somewhere and they find it adulterated, maybe it is smelling petrol or what, if you come to our system here, we can trace back and say this container has coffee of so and so and so and so. But along this journey, we got in connection with an association called New Cafe. New Cafe, they introduced us to Abbey Trust some time back, because during our selling of coffee, we didn't have capital. And Abbey Trust facilitated the New Cafe to extend some funding facilities for us to buy farm coffee and sell it to better markets. That was the first stint we had with Abbey Trust. It didn't go far. We finished one season and that project ended, and maybe it continued somewhere else. But as of now, we are glad to come back to Abbey Trust, knowing that now we heard about the green challenge. But by that time, we had come to a point of realizing that the environment is changing so rapidly. Our coffee farmers are getting stressed with drought. They don't have water. And a few years back, we had innovated our butterfly water catchment system for irrigation. So we said, wait a minute, we can participate in this. And also, we had learned about macadamia tree. We had started planting a macadamia mother garden. That time, it was the right time when we heard about this Green Challenge program. Our concept has 4 major components in it. Component number 1 is to improve coffee for high yielding. But you cannot improve coffee for high yielding if your coffee can still be stressed by drought. So component number 2 was water collection, where we develop ponds which can collect water between 30 to 40,000 liters of water. So even if the farmer is not farming right at the river, he or she can still have enough water to take care of 1 to 2 acres of coffee. So component number 3 of our Green Challenge, we looked at the macadamia tree to provide us with the shade to protect our coffee, with a nut to turn around income, with the flower to bring about honey, and with the firewood, because when the trees will grow big, when you prune them, you cut these branches, you can always have a heap of firewood. So that releases pressure from our natural resources. The target farmers on this project is 200. So that is the number we are going to give all the 4 components. But we got advised from our facilitators at Abbey Trust that, look, this is a good concept. You train as more people, probably, who knows, but which is also very good, because Abbey facilitates us to do that. Even if we don't get this or the other, we shall have a whole group of people, 1,000 families who are trained and can easily be developed. We teach them the financial literacy. How, when you make $1 million shillings, how do you divide it? And because of that, our education program of financial literacy among our farmers, our bank sprang out. We developed a circle because people said, no, we cannot just be farmers, we also need to be savers. So the savers, the first 100 people who made a ton of coffee, brought 500,000 shillings, and we raised 30 million shillings. And from 30 million shillings, we started our circle, Celebrate Hope Circle, and now our savings have grown to over 5 billion shillings. I'm a pastor who hates poverty. I hate preaching to poor people. I want to leave the pulpit And I want to see people happily sharing with me testimonies that their children went to school. I don't want to finish preaching and people start crying about school fees. So that being said, what I'm trying to bring it to is, yes, we get people coming to learn, and they've already started hearing about this new concept, because that's me. I'm a transformational guy. Anything good I get, I tell them, I may not have money to fund it for you, but this is a new idea. So already we have people coming. We have our coffee street as you drive in, and we also have our macadamia street. So we've already started a small demonstration teaching it out. So people, Greater Masaka, when we started this work, we were basically for this place. But now we're already in some parts of Masaka, we're already in some parts of Ruengo, we're already in some parts of Nyabushozi. Because of that nature, when people come to learn, they invite us to go. And we've already started coffee farms in northern Uganda.
Olw'obutonde bw'ensi ffe ffennyini bwe tuzze twonoona, bwe tukwata enkola eno tusomeseddwa bulungi enkola macadamia, ekirime ky'emmwanyi, amazzi, enzizi zino ze tuyina byonna biina kinene nnyo kye bikola ku kukuuma obutonde bw'ensi. Kati ng'ovudde ku butonde bw'ensi bwe tubukuuma ne tubuzzaawo, ate tuyina okufuna ekisingiridde mu bintu ebyo, kubanga macadamia nga bwe njogedde emabegaawo aliko ebibala bitundibwa, ekimuli kye kikola bulungi nnyo ku njuki nefuna omubisi, kakati ate n'enjuki zennyini tugenda kubanga tufunamu ssente mu mubisi gw'enjuki.
Nebaza Katonda nti nga tetunaba kwegatta ne Celebrate Hope Ministry twali twaggwamu essuubi olw'embeera enzibu gye twayitangamu mu byenfuna ne mu byokulima. Twalimanga emmwanyi nga tutunda mu butaasa ng'ate era tetulina kye tufunamu, ate awo ne tufunamu n'omuyaga, emmwanyi zonna ne zikala ne tubiviirako ddala. Naye oluvannyuma lw'okwegatta ne CHM twafuna omusomo ng'abasumba ne tufuna omusomo ng'abalimi, n'atuzzaamu essuubi n'atwagazisa okulima ne tugufuula omulimo. Nyongera okumwebaza nti yatuyigiriza okutereka, n'ateekawo bbanka nemba nga nnyina akawunti mu bbanka. Embeera n'ekyuka, abaali batwala obutaasa ne tutandikira mu nsawo, kati we tutuuse tutikka tipa nnamba. Nebaza Katonda okuyita mu buweereza obwo sobodde okuweerera abaana bange. Nina be mmazizzaako, wemba nnemereddwa ngenda ku bbanka ne bampola ku ssente n'entoopinga nga mmaze okukungula emmwanyi. Amaka gaffe gaali matono, tusobodde okuzimba amaka agategeerekeka, tusobodde okugula ebibanja, tusobodde okugulayo ku bisolo, tulinayo n'ente. Twebaza Katonda tufunyeyo ne ku nnyumba z'abapangisa.
Well, welcome back, viewers. Now you've seen the story. You now have a picture of what Pastor Sikewa is capable of and what he has been able to do on the ground. And since we have a man of God in the house, I would like to read, start our show today with a scripture.
Oh, okay.
And that is in Genesis 1,
Okay.
chapter 1, verses 11 and 12. And it says, And God said, Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after its kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself, and after his kind. And God saw that it was good.
It was good. Yeah.
Beautiful. Now, Pastor Sikewa, I've of course, someone watching might ask, and the reason why I was reading that verse was to try and, answer that anticipated question.
Yeah.
What is the pastor doing, in the space of green production? We tend to live in a world today where fruit and trees cannot produce, their own seed as God intended it, as we've seen in Genesis 1. We've reached a point where, for instance, if I need to plant maize again, I have to take that journey to the shop.
Yeah.
Unlike in the past where I would put some maize, on top of the kitchen and then remove it after and put it in the ground and see more seed. All these speak to the fact that we need to do something about our environment, about our agriculture, making it sustainable for the future. But I want to put it to you, because some of the points we've seen there in that little montage, they're pointing to the fact that you're doing effort to be part of, that journey to conserve the environment. So, paint for us a picture. Why are you in this space?
Thank you, Charles. Like as you heard me say, I'm this one kind of a pastor who doesn't love to preach to poor people. When we are doing our work with the pastors, you had me giving that formula, 1 + 1 + 1. One pastor, but this pastor goes through a training of teaching, being trained, being equipped, discipled. This is when you make the pastors to think like you, to believe like you, to see life like you. To be men of God who don't wait for the offering, but men of God who participate in creating the offering and then creating groups. So because of that, I was involved in the production. And I lost almost 2 acres of coffee to drought. So I combined both. I combined the prayer. In fact, I remember in the morning I finished my prayer and I said, but Lord, you can't be the same God giving us the idea to release us from poverty and the sun you created. I wasn't complaining, but I was raising a concern that the sun you created is actually discouraging us. What can we do? So he gave me that idea of butterfly. Actually saw the ponds in Sese, in Kalanga, where they raise fish from. I said, I can do that on top of a hill. And then roofing, the rest was like sitting together. So because I'm part of the people who produce, that pushes me to be an innovator. How do we survive? How do we sustain our business as coffee farmers? And how do we live together to harness whatever God, that scripture I've read, being given the seed, being given the land, being given the crop, and the business is lucrative, how can we enhance it? So now, and my space I'm sitting in is, I'm a pastor. So I have other fellow pastors. I've lived and I've worked, I worked in a number of NGOs. I've been in the NGO world for some time. But NGOs have a lifespan. So the NGO will come, after 10 years, it will go. UNDP starts a program, it will go. Then if you were to attach yourself to the LC, yes, which is awesome, he's the local leader, but tomorrow he'll be voted out. Because he hasn't facilitated photos here and there. You know our stories around here. Then sometimes, so you go like, who is my best ally? Because the church being the word of God, the church is going to stay here until the Lord comes back. So that is the space where I sit. I sit in an institution which has full mortality. If you call it full mortality rate, it has no beginning, it has no end, it has his king, it has Jesus who will come back for it. So the man who's leading that institution is the man to ally with. The woman who sits in that position. So that is the space I sit in. I sit in a space whereby the people I attach and ally with will have the influence, because every Sunday we have a meeting with the people. So one pastor changed to preach at the pulpit the message of transformation, and one family, his or hers being the first family to take it, will pick it, men, and next time they'll have 450 or 200 trees of coffee, and then they will refer to the man who's pushing them that his coffee is there, my coffee is here. So that is the space where I sit, among my very own, on whom I have authority.
That's great.
Following the Lord Jesus.
That's great to hear. Now, before I bring in Charles, I want to squeeze this in. You know, when people come to church, in most cases, they've some of them have resigned. You know, to someone who is not spiritual, they would say they've resigned to fate. And they are looking for divine intervention. If you can share with us how you managed to pick, you know, that soul and say, you know, turn it around and say you can actually do it. Because what you're doing, you're not just, you know, guiding them spiritually, but you're also telling them that, yes, you can actually change your social status by doing A, B, C, D, and Y, which requires your own effort. And of course, God's intervention can come, but He needs to find you. How do you handle that? Because in most cases, people come to church and sit and say a miracle will happen. They will even sell what they have. As they're in Tandikwa the other side, and say, let's put it here. Something will happen and I take off. How do you handle that?
That's quite interesting, Charles. Thank you for that wonderful question. It all begins with the man you work with, the man you connect with first, the man you relate with, who is the pastor or a lady, because our churches, some of them are led by ladies. You identify them, but they have to go through a rigorous kind of mind change process. I know this country has wonderful professors in social change at Makere, everywhere. When you think of social change, you have to deal with a very bad aspect of attitudinal defeatism. So if the leader is attitudinally defeated, who is the pastor, then he will preach attitudinally defeated messages. So that is my job. You've been thinking your attitudinal government to Yambe. That is a defeated attitude. So now I bring this pastor to me and we interface. And I say, you know what, guy, I can imagine you have 5 acres around your house or half an acre around your house. We can turn it around. So when they pick it, they start challenging their congregant. And the multiplying factor has always been, this pastor also, we teach them that, look, you are not only building an enterprise based on your congregation, walk around the community. Because in Acts chapter 10, verse 38, it's one of our leading verses, that when the Lord Jesus Christ was full of the Spirit and knowledge from above, He walked around looking, doing good. So when He moved around doing good, the Bible says healing the sick. But sometimes we take it like only the sick with malaria. But many people sick in their attitudes, sick in the pocket. The pocket is sick, the attitude is sick, the mind is sick. So they resign. If the pastor cannot take the child to school, he will cry the same way. So he is the congregant. He's going to cry. So that's where we began from. We changed the first man, who is the pastor. Then we inculcated our messages into him.
It trickles down.
And it trickles down. It takes us a full year of training to release this pastor to start interfacing with the community.
The word to underline there is release. Charles, as you come in.
You know, it is so interesting to get a Christian leader come to the space of business and illustrate it as a normal good thing for humanity to do. Many times we hide our laziness by selectively reading the Bible and say, you know what, God says He will take the poor will inherit His kingdom. Then you hang on that verse. Or, you know, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and the rest will just come. Then you walk to the pastor and just say, Pastor, I've been to the church so many times, I want the rest to come. Then the pastor says, this is not going to be a quick fix thing. You heard what he said? Select leaders. That aspect of selection alone will cause you problems. But go through it. You left out so and so, you left so and so, you selected this, you left your brother. Your brothers should all have been pastors. He said, no, I am going to select leaders. When I select them, my battle is I must ground them in the principles of long-term success. Again, that's not easy. People want things now. School fees must be paid today. Treatment must be accessed today. I want good road, good food today and good dressing today. The pastor is just saying, let's plant this bit by bit. We are going to create our transformation. In fact, when he was submitting, you heard what he said. The circles came later. But people first started with empty acres and started transforming the acres. Later, they started saving. And today, 5 billion. I don't know how large that area, that the 5 billion is covered. Roughly.
Yeah, we originally we started with the Rakai district.
Okay.
Now we are having 2 districts and a few other small, not so large communities in Irengo and Masaka district.
Correct.
But the point you've made, if I may interject a little bit, it has always been the kind of thinking we are having now.
Yeah.
We have created a system whereby money chases people. So money, some programs I'm seeing right now going around, it's like government has put money here to chase people.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
People must be taught how to chase money.
Very good.
So when
putting the cart before the horse.
Yes, exactly. So when I say macadamia, when I say coffee, from the point of selection, select the pastor, train the pastor,
correct,
equip the pastor,
correct,
send the pastor to the farm, get him the right coffee seedling, teach him the agronomics and whatever it is related to that,
correct,
produce the first coffee,
correct,
take it to processing,
correct,
market it. All the steps are preparing the pastor to chase the money, are preparing the farmer to not the program saying the money is here, come back for it, be trained, come back for it. That one might not change us. People should learn how to chase money, not money chasing people.
Great. Now, moving on, Pastor, on here I bring in the aspect of now green production. Proper, because the interfaces we've had with several players in this area is that it's not easy to actually follow the principles of green production, especially in agriculture. Because, for instance, I think we had a gentleman here, Charles, who was talking about organic production. I think the gentleman from Ankole Coffee Producers.
That's correct.
Yes, and what you've done is not just helping these people look at business as a good way to change their lives, social lives that is, but then also pointing them to the side or the direction of green production. How has that experience been for you? How easy has it been for you to say, don't just produce, but also produce this way? Because I'm sure that's how you managed to get some of the partners like ABI on board.
Yes, thank you, Charles. It has been like, by the time we got in touch with ABI Development, we had started thinking, this one kind of a person who listens. When you come to my office, you may not find what would call needs assessment reports. I use my eye, I use my head, I use my heart. So the walking through the community shows me that we have a problem. I know vividly in the community where I am raised, I come from Chotara district. I was born in Kabale Sanje, Sanje trading center there near Kakuto. I'm a typical villager, a bush boy, bushman. But when I know exactly my grandparents come from Kannabulemu. I know what the Malamagambo forest. It is dying. So as a person with a concerned mind and perception, I start painting, I start thinking. So when I heard about the macadamia tree, for instance, and I had already set up a system of our coffee farmers, and I learned that it can be intercropped with the coffee. I just got it, put it into the existing system. Okay. And then I was like, hey, dear farmers, you know what's going on? We have a new crop which can substitute some of the trees we've been having in our farms. And this tree can produce 4 things, as I mentioned in the trailer we just played. Shade, nut, it is a nitrogen fixing tree. And it can give us firewood. So this one tree intercropped with our coffee, it can give us 5 benefits. And if it is a nitrogen fixing tree, it means that we are going also to lesson on these plastic fertilizers we are applying. So I combined all the information. You know, it is very dangerous to introduce a program we've not studied. True. So you'll be asked a question and you go like, wait a minute. So you can you can't start something and then you go, wait a minute. Yes. So that's how then I've already shared with you when it comes to drought. So I go like, the rivers have dried up and the people want to grow around the river banks or swamps so that they can get water. So they're depleting actually. They're actually depleting the water table and the ecosystems there. So because we managed to develop forests within our coffee farms, so I was like, I'm for it. Then I was, hey, Abby, Abby, where are you, Abby? I have an idea. And when Abby called for proposals, I presented my idea of this wonder tree. It can give me nut to sell. It can give me firewood. I release pressure from our natural resources. It is going to protect my coffee. Hey, let's talk. Yes. Beautiful.
Charles, I think that rhymes with the assertion that you've always had of linking extension service, scientific research, with production in this case. Because when you hear about the benefits of the macadamia tree in a coffee garden, I'm very sure not so many people actually know about that. And it can be anything else, another tree or another, kind of intervention or system.
Yeah, what Pastor Frederick is sharing with us is what you call a leader that transforms. First and foremost, a leader that transforms must be able to associate with the challenges of the community, speak to their problems, speak to their challenges. They say when you speak as if you are wearing the shoes of the hurting person with hurting feet, the moment you start talking, they say, wow, wait a minute, that seems to be me. They associate with it. So you first and foremost need a leader who will reflect on what's going on in the community. Yes. 2, if he truly believes in what he or she is speaking and has a few acres around and he picks the macadamia tree himself and plants, they say this is real, this is serious. Pastor is planting the macadamia plant. Yes. It is true. So when the pastor is speaking and says, I have planted one, it is there, you can actually go and see it. Transformation must sit into somebody's inner areas of insecurity and sometimes areas of concern. Now, when you say macadamia is not just coming in to give shade, which a fellow say, but shade, only that, he says, no, it's also going to give you fruit that you can sell. It's also going to bring in some bit of fertilizing effect to the garden. It says, this is different. And then that is doing all that, it's also going to create other benefits. At the end of the day, you can remove a branch, you can remove 2 and get some firewood. Sustainable tree. So that aspect of education is not something that you fix in 2 weeks, in 1 month. You must have what you call a latitudinous, long-term, big outlook to where you want the population to go to. Now, that requires you to go beyond this project approach to development. You are going to say, I'm going to develop my community, and this thing is going to take us years, it's going to take us decades. But so long as each time we make progressive good steps, doesn't matter. So truly, it is so gratifying to see a pastor weaving himself into an activity and using himself to say, I am going to get proponents, other young pastors who will keep on spreading this message.
The message.
But as he's doing that, he's also looking out for opportunities and saying, hey, there's a proposal somewhere. You don't wait for a miracle. The miracles can happen, by the way.
Yes.
But you must be on the move.
Yeah.
A proposal has been written. You must respond.
True.
If you don't, it will pass. A pastor sits down and says, this thing has been written. Although we're pastors, they are not just going to give it to us. We must qualify. He begins to make a case for it. That is what you call sacrificial, committed leadership.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Wow.
Viewers, you can be part of this show, and we have Pastor Sechewa here. Of course, we now see the kind of people, the number of people he has been able to mobilize towards, you know, a very noble goal or cause, which is social transformational, and he's going to be answering our questions. We have him in the studio, so in the last quarter, about 25 minutes of this show, we're going to have, you know, him responding to those questions. But Pastor, I want to ask you about, because you mentioned, you know, having in total about 3,000 people. Now that is not a small feat, and I know in there, you know, to keep them focused to the goal, to the aspirations, you know, of the organization, you know, comes with its own challenges as well. If you can share some of those and how you handle them, you know, for purposes of those that are, you know, having similar groups and probably having sleepless nights now.
With them. Thank you, Charles. And so thank you, Mr. Chichi, for that insight you put in for the work we're doing. I appreciate that. We, you know, first of all, when we started this work, I started with 5 pastors. Yeah. The 5 pastors became 100 pastors.
Oh my God.
And those we are working with right now are 260 pastors. Those are 260 churches.
Wow.
Those are 260 villages. And the pastor being family number 1, we asked them to look for 19 other farmers to form groups of 20 farmers. And now some pastors have worked well. From 20 they are to 100. Now when the work continued growing, we said this pastor is getting overwhelmed. Remember, much as he's involved in transformational work, he also has to preach. He has to prepare the flock, he has to bring the messages. So we said, let's create to him a group of people, 2 per group. We call CCVs, Community Coffee Volunteers. Now every pastor becomes the leader, assisted by 2 community-based volunteers, coffee volunteers. Now these CCVs, we bring them and we give them a much more training into our business, and then they start assisting the pastor, because all our farmers are profiled. All our farmers are digitalized, and now all our farmers are traceable, and most of our farms now are on GPS.
Interesting.
So you can be somewhere, you put in the coordinate, you zoom on my farm.
And you see Matayo's farm.
Yes, you see Matayo's farm, and you go like, this area has got rainfall stress. Even if wherever I am, I can always advise my team. That lessons us also from employing so many people at the office. Let me surprise you.
Sorry,
yes.
Hold it right there. We're going to pick it from there after this very short commercial break.
Okay.
We'll pick it from there. Welcome back, viewers. It's still the Business X-Ray Show, and we are looking at the role of faith-based organizations in supporting and promoting green production. In our studio today, we have Pastor Sechewa from Celebrate Hope Ministries, and he's here to actually share his story. He has really shared with us where he began and how he has been able to mobilize a group of over 3,000, into production, saving, processing, exporting, name it, the entire agriculture chain. Pastor Sechewa, you seem to be sitting there. But before we went for the break, you had actually shared with us how you've managed to actually build a structure, you know, which helps you to, you know, manage the 3,000 towards, you know, the aspiration, the mission, so to speak. And I'd like to again ask you just an appendage to that, you know, how you deal with some of the challenges when they arise. What are some of those challenges, you know, if you may?
Challenge number one, you know, when you have the pastor is the leader and the CCV, some of my pastors tend to get tired.
Okay.
And they leave the work to the CCVs. So sometimes maintaining the momentum of the pastors.
Is that a coffee volunteer?
The community coffee volunteers.
Okay.
So some of my team members, my pastors, tend to leave the job to the CCVs.
I hear you.
So my job is always to re-energize them. Hey guys, we have to keep going.
Okay.
Don't leave it to the guys there, because we are the gatekeepers. The pastor is the gatekeeper of the community. Is the man who prays for the community. And the uniqueness of our ministry is that we don't have, we are not so much of an influential church in the country. We have very few people who come to our church who sit in positions of influence in this country. It's so difficult to find a Pentecostal pastor. So a minister who comes to our churches, I don't know, maybe they fear to come there. So I tend to tell them that, guys, the Baganda say abatono balwanira musanja. So guys, so I keep energizing them. That's one challenge. Challenge two, we planted coffee, but we were pointed to some nursery beds with quack producers. So we planted quack seedlings, fake seedlings. So some farmers have found difficult replacing them, and that pushed us into starting our own nursery beds. And some of our CCVs, sometimes also they say, Pastor, we went there, we want some data, you know, data. If I have data, I can be your friend. If I don't have data for my phone, I'm not your friend. Some people are like that. So that's one other challenge. So, but generally speaking, we are getting there, whereby social change takes time. Takes time. It does not have a specific time frame. It has attitudes, it has beliefs, it has culture, it has this beliefs, it has that movement, it has that practice, it has this leadership, it has this. So there are a number of things affecting it.
How do you deal with the question of entitlement, especially where you have a spiritual leader and the church is looking up to him? So
the question of entitlement is me who deal with it first. I tell my pastors, when I come to train you, it is up to you. If you give me an envelope to facilitate me, you can give it to me. If you don't give it to me, I don't care. I have my coffee. So I'm not leading with an entitlement mind. God, I have 11 acres of coffee. 11. I'm a serious coffee farmer. And if conservatively, each tree gives me 5 kilos of FAQ. And I happen to sell I'm talking about FAQ because most factories, they don't have value addition. They don't grade, they don't gravitatable. I'm giving FAQ. And I sell coffee, rather a kilo, at 7,800. And I have 11 acres. Don't calculate my cash now.
It's quite tempting.
Yes. So the entitlement spirit, I deal with it first as myself. I tell them, you can give me fuel, you cannot give me fuel. You can give me a tithe, you may not give me a tithe. I'm not even the lead pastor of my church. When I'm in town, I go to Gaba Community Church. My pastor, Pastor Peter Kasiriv, is my pastor. When I'm in Sanje, I go to Sanje Community Church, but I have an apostolic calling. I've planted many churches. So if I'm not in this church, I'm that church. The presiding pastor is the one take the tithe. So I'm not entitled for anything. I work for my...
It's exemplary leadership.
You're welcome.
And I'm very sure other pastors are watching this.
Oh,
Charles,
maybe.
you can come in, but as you come in, I'm going to request our producer to flash that number, the WhatsApp number, so that you can, forward your questions to Pastor Kasiriv here. And
Pastor Fred.
So
Pastor Kasiriv was good too.
Apologies about that. Yes. Pastor Kasiriv is the one of Gaba Community's Church.
Yes, yes.
Charles.
Pastor Freddy brings out elements that bring what you call consistency and long-lasting effect.
Yes.
One of those is put systems in place. And those systems will be tested through other aspects that a market could require you to do, traceability. So you're putting systems and you are telling them why systems matter. But even after you put in systems, you've got to have a team to follow through those systems and enforce them.
Yes.
That's not easy. Now it is again at that point of, first of all, putting systems in place is disruptive, it is painful, it's a backyard activity, nobody even is looking at them, but they matter for quality. Now, for them to work, you need a team committed to getting that done. Now, that's where leadership comes in, to influence CCVs to actually follow through those systems.
Yes.
Not easy at all. Not easy at all. So, when you see a leader who says, I'm going to be in this and I'm going to be part of the example, and he tells you that I'm not going to be doing this because I want you to be giving me money because the Bible says so. I'm going to do this because when you get that money and you are happy, the Bible says a happy giver, a joyous giver is the best. Not the one you coerce, not the one you emphasize a particular section of the readings and what have you, but when you remember when he just in passing said, one of the community members, for the first time in life, probably in his family, bought a brand new motorbike. He said, where is Pastor? Pastor, where are you? Come and sit on this motorbike. And he called it our motorbike. That night when he got it, he must have just said, when can I reach where Pastor is? He needs to see this. He never dreamt he would ever get such a thing. Just imagine such a fellow coming on Sunday to make a gift and make an offering. You don't have to coerce him. Sure. It's flowing from abundance. It's flowing from happiness. It's flowing like saying, how do I express this? So I think we need to just see that humanity is logical. When you tell them whatever you are telling them, and they know that ultimately they are the beneficiaries, they follow. Yeah. But he put in another thing, said, teaching and learning is so key, continuously. Yeah. In other words, you don't say, finally, it's done. My community has been taught and they have learned. Every other day, every other week, every other month, be on the ground to enforce the systems, to make the teams to work. But you can see how this is so key, because ultimately he's thinking about the customer. He's not doing all this for the sake of being active and busy. He's saying this coffee will end up in the international market. In there, the rewards are premised on quality. The rewards are premised on what you did to deliver value to the customer. So everything you do as you are trying to lift the community up to poverty, have a bigger picture of the market, and then talk backwards and come and teach people to go there.
Beautiful, beautiful. Pastor, I want to ask you this, because I know now where you sit, you're not only producing, you're exporting. And that's not an everyday thing. You know, please allow me to use the word villager or villagers.
Yeah, we are villagers, no problem. So that's where money is.
Now and that's the reason why probably most of us like to stay in urban areas. Because we think the village is, the other side. You cast to the periphery of things.
I moved from here. I went back to the village.
Interesting. So tell us, how did you manage to scale? To move from being a villager to actually playing in the international space? Because there are many in Kampala actually who, you know, can't even wrap their mind around that.
Charles, that is interesting. That's very interesting, because some guys might say, what are you exactly talking about? But it all comes in understanding that when you are mobilizing the church, looking at the church, the productivity and all that, you should always have the mind of your product and how you're going to sell it and who buy it. So when I started working with my team, I said, this is where we are going.
Yes.
And our vision is to create an RTC, a rural transformation center. I believe, with all due respect, that coffee of this country can not only be exported from Kampala. So there is no reason why I'm 25 kilometers from Mutukula,
the border,
and I'm 3 days away from Dar es Salaam with my 260 churches, and bring my lorries of coffee to a company which is sitting here to export it for me. Then I will not be a businessman. A rural transformation center is going to be a place in this country whereby productivity is gathered, whereby productivity is processed, whereby productivity is marketed, whereby productivity is banked. It cannot be money products from Chotera, Sanje, where we have our center with my pastors. We bring it to Kampala, someone sells it and sends us back the money. In this digital era, whereby I can be in Sanje, work with the exporter, wires the money into my account.
I hear you loud and clear. Now I have one of the viewers who has sent a comment, actually it's a question, and saying, thank you Peter, rather Pastor, is saying this initiative needs to be spread across the country. Other religious leaders need to copy this so that they mobilize their folk to work and eventually support their churches.
Very good.
And I think that can tie in with what message do you have for the other churches?
Very good.
The church I work with, our church, our pastor organized us into fellowship of churches called Fellowship of Community Churches. And through that effort, we are leading 900 churches across the country. And I've pioneered the coffee growing in Guru up in the north. And I've also established pilot coffee farms in Soroti. Mr. Chichi, where do you come from?
Soroti.
Soroti, there you go.
Yeah.
So you can be one of my coffee farmers there.
Very good.
We have a church there. I've been teaching. I've been invited to talk to churches. We are flexible. We don't add anything around ourselves. We are committed to and focused at seeing our communities released from oppressions. You get to us and then we talk. We are ready to serve this country. I love my country. I love my Lord. I love my church. I love my country.
Beautiful. Charles, quite interesting submissions there. And
extremely.
On the journey of transformation,
extremely,
and especially where we are as an economy at the moment, having been battered by COVID, we're now talking about climate change.
Yes,
we need the effort of everyone, and I'm seeing from Pastor Sechewa's submission,
very good,
the importance of the church.
The church right now sits at an extremely vital position because it has what I call a captive audience. Almost an audience that you can just run this way and the next minute they are doing it.
Okay.
Very few politicians can do that because they will be saying, before we run, give us the running equipment.
And a church, yes. And season also.
Correct.
Yes.
So a church is seated at the point where people, when you talk about spiritual salvation, they give a pastor all the honor that a pastor can get. Now, a pastor comes with a broader and a bigger picture on why we are created as human beings and says, yes, there will be good places in heaven and God has prepared for each one of us a room. But meantime, you have 45 years to continue living here. How will you be living here? You will be producing babies. They will need food they need to be treated. They need to be taken to a school. And you don't hurry to go to the room prepared.
True.
That one's God's own timing.
Yes.
Now, so when a pastor begins to say, by the way, did you see where it's captured in the great book where it says, I walked around a garden of a lazy, stupid man. He was oversleeping and folding his hands. And I sent poverty that attacked him like an armed robber. At that point, you have disrupted you have disrupted the peace of a fellow who's saying, I'm supposed to be coming here only to receive the good message from the Lord. So when we get pastors speaking this message,
Yes.
our church's heart dances with gladness. Because pastors have so much power that if they send people to the angle of to serve God now, this time we wait upon God. We leave it to God. The moment to utter the word God to defend laziness, to change that person, you have a task you can't believe.
It's actually a task indeed. So I have Thomas here. It's from Luzira. He's saying, thank you, Pastor. The hardworking and motivating, for being hardworking and motivating. Because some pastors are more money-minded from the fellowship than telling them the truth. And I think that's what you're saying, Charles.
Yeah. And I'm happy that today we have an individual who goes to the rural setting, and he knows this stuff. And he knows the rural setting cannot even dry clean his suit. You see how well dressed he is. Those fellows, to just contribute money, if they are poor and they are not having coffee plantations, they cannot dry clean the suit of a pastor.
True.
So now the pastor has got to be writing proposals to America. And Americans, we are writing to a normal human beings like us, and they come and visit the person in Kichoter and just say, this is a place of promise and fortune. Why are you not changing this place?
I hear you.
Using these fellows themselves, using what they have.
I hear you.
So truly speaking, I think, and I'm happy with the way Pastor Fred is looking at it. He says, any pastor, any congregation, we are free to talk with them and share what we have done in our humble ways. And it's still work in progress. Even as we want to admire them, he's still saying, we are still digging into this thing.
Great.
They moved from, is it 100 whatever tons to now 300, is it 300,000 tons of coffee?
No, now we are 300 tons.
Right now?
Yeah, right now, because we are growing.
Correct.
We still have some bit of a challenge where some of our farmers sell off their coffee before because of some pressures.
Correct.
And that brings in the aspect of financing agencies.
Very true.
Now, financing agencies, I think that's a very, very important aspect, because there's no business person here who has not mentioned that people to
about financing
and banking. What has been your experience? Just briefly. Meanwhile, my phone here is blazing with messages.
Oh man,
I have a lot of messages.
Okay, let me
just briefly.
Our experience has shown that nobody wants to finance an enterprise, a setup based in Sanje. Is there anything good coming of Bethlehem? So it was for our Lord Jesus Christ. So there's nothing good coming from Sanje. So thank you, NTV, for bringing a villager here who is making money and with his pastors. Bottom line is, we are having a challenge. The nitty-gritties, the things they demand are so hard, far-reaching. And then the percentages, and this comes like, we've given you the money today and tomorrow start paying. It creates a very big, huge gap in finance. However, we have reached where we've reached.
Beautiful. Now, I have someone here is saying, you're already touching hearts, Pastor. He's saying the story of this great pastor on TV has made me to rethink my previous opinion about pastors in Uganda, who are well known for changing expensive cars at the expense of their followers, who are choking on loans and used to buy blessings. I don't know what you can say about that comment briefly before we go to the next one.
Well, I'm a pastor believing in working with our hands and I'm a pastor believing in mobilizing our local church and local communities. When I say working with pastors, we not only work with the people in our churches, but the pastor is responsible to look for those homes of the who are trainable, who can be transformed and come along with us. So you find us CCVs who are sheikhs who've been working with the whole diocese of West Uganda, diocese of the Anglican Church. We are working with 2-3 different sisters congregations from the Catholic Church. We have worked with a group of sheikhs from West Uganda, mobilizing them, and so I'm here. I believe in hard work to fend my family. I'm a married man, I have 4 children, I have educated. Being a pastor is not going to be a burden of my church.
Excellent. Now I have a farmer here. He's saying, thanks NTV for inviting this great man, Pastor Fred Sichewa.
Thank you.
My name is Herbert Mulira, one of his coffee farmers.
Oh.
Yes. So Herbert here is appreciating the work that you're doing.
There you are.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, and he's saying he needs a bit of help, which he wants you to share again for the others, about coffee. There's a pesticide, actually called a pesticide, attacking most of the coffee and drying up the entire coffee tree. What kind of counsel can you give the other coffee farmers? Because now you are, as a farmer,
yeah, there's coffee wilt, and these days the government has put in effort to bring varieties from Kituza. They've developed lines with which are coffee wilt resistant, but at the same time there is a coffee weevil. That weevil, there's no way you do it. There are no sprays, there nothing. So what you do as a farmer, keep visiting your farm. When you see anything like drying pod or some branch is drying, mechanically remove it. And normally how I teach farmers, never visit your farm without a sack tied around your waist. And this other side, another bag tied around your waist. That's how I operate my farm. So if I see this drying branch, I cut it, I put it in this sack here, because I have to burn it outside my farm. And this side, if I find any red cherry, I put it in this bag. Don't allow any cherry to fall down on the ground if you are to make the coffee business. And never allow a drying branch, leave 2-3 days on your coffee stump, because it will destroy the rest of the farm.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, another question here from David Bagaga Buoma. He's saying, what type of subspecies are your coffee seedlings, and at what age do you sell them? I think at what age do they mature, or rather ready for selling out of the nursery?
We come from a Robusta producing zone in this country. We are now seriously following the new varieties of coffee developed from Kituza. And when you go to the nursery and you want to buy seedlings which have 4 mature pairs of leaves. You know, when you pick the seedling, it has to have 4 pairs of leaves, mature leaves, and the shoot. That will give you a mature seedling, which will be this high. Put it in the hole. It has to be 2 by 2. The reason why we are having large holes, because of the issues of drought, so that this hole can hold a lot of water, and that one can start, when taken care of, from 1.5 years to 2 years, it starts flowering. We have seen it. We are not in the stories of the hare and the leopard. No, we don't talk about that.
Thank you, Pastor. Now, I'm seeing you viewers trying to call that number. Please, it's a WhatsApp number. Just send the message. The pastor will receive it here. Now, I have Solomon. She's from Mubende. She's saying, I'm not born again. Can I join? I have only 1 hectare of land. So he's saying, is this open to...
Yeah, I've already shared, Charles, that we are a church mindful of God's people.
Yes.
That's one thing, that we a church, our pastors are part of the community. They live in the community. So I've already mentioned to the viewers that we have people, our pastors are leading people across the board. Our farmers are not only born again farmers. Some of them, you might even find a group having only 3 people coming to church, and it is of 20 farmers. The 17 are going to other different religions. So Solomon, if you go to Muganda, there we have a wonderful brother called Pastor Magaba. Is doing some wonderful job there. Bishop Magaba is there. He is in Ichengeza. Look for him, then he will connect you to me.
Beautiful. Now I have Kawere Simon. He's from NTV. He's saying, is it possible if you organize pastors and you come and teach them?
There you are.
Yes, we in NTV, I have a dear brother, Pastor Wadimba Daniel, and Bethel Tabernacle down there nearby Tababidi. Pastors get organized meetings, and then who come? We are committed, and we are still strong guys who run around supporting the church. So you organize Entebbe pastors who come to share our testimony, just sharing our testimonies and challenging each other. Yes.
Now I have quite a number of questions where people are asking, can this be replicated across the country? Do you have plans? I know you touched that a little. Maybe they want to hear that again, because about 7 questions are on that.
7 questions related. It's replicable. What we do is sometimes we ask people from different regions to organize themselves in groups. It might be difficult for us to be in all places. It might be difficult for us to be omnipresent everywhere. But what you can do as groups, you can organize yourselves, you can write to us. We can organize a study tour. You come, you bring a few people. We can work with your church, your group, or it's a co-op group, how we have developed ourselves. And time being available and being on our side, we can come to a region, train. We do like 1 or 2 groups. So it's replicable. Either it is for merit. I'm talking about coffee because I've taken it to Northern Uganda, and we are doing we are doing well in Northern Uganda.
Beautiful. So Pastor, you can share your contact. Quite a number also asking for your contact.
Okay. I was very careful so that the Charles does not go like, what are you exactly doing, Fred? Yes, my telephone number is 0772 465 007. 0772 465 007. And if you go to www.celebratehopeministries.com, celebratehopeministries, one word, .com, then you get to us. 772-465-007. That's my number, and that's my WhatsApp number.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you very much. Charles, you've heard the messages from the people, and we are almost at the end of our interface today. I want you to help us summarize this, and again looking at the role that faith-based institutions really have in driving the transformation towards that mission of the kind of Uganda we want. From an economic point of view.
The story of Freddy and the way he has been able to create no less than 260 other churches in his lifetime is a story of somebody who has walked into his space, seen a mission, and committed himself to get it done. Now, as a religious leader or a faith-based leader, you are always viewed from the perspective of a provider, a kind person, a person they narrate everything, then you begin writing proposals and trying to look after community. The best one can do is to hand over that responsibility to the community. But when you go to start doing that, you have walked into a space of a leader who must be sacrificial. Be ready to put in the hours for which no immediate payment will come. But believe me, if one quietly had a moment to chat with Pastor Fred right now, he will tell you there is nothing as fulfilling as seeing a poor person who never ever hoped to have a bicycle in their compound coming and saying, Pastor, I now have a motorbike. I got it from my own effort. There was nobody had to go and beg and continue harassing to get this motorbike. Empowering individuals to have financial independence is next to holiness. Because in there is where you get morality. In there is where you get people who now say, I'm useful in this planet. So I think Business X-Ray today has brought a very beautiful angle to what leaders in the Christian circles, in the religious circles, can do to have a broader view about the purpose of a religious leader leading a community on this planet. You are not telling people only about heading to heaven. Because if it was that, then babies should be born today, Monday, tomorrow they should be flying to heaven. Because they should just be born and then told, now your room is ready, fly. The baby is born and the baby is left here for 70 years. Yes. Now that 70 years, there's no man dropping from the heaven. That please, what breakfast do you need this morning? What lunch do you need today? The baby must get to a position of looking after himself or herself and cause a transformation. In short, leaders in the religious circles need to take a deliberate space of leadership and be people who can create lasting change in communities.
Thank you very much, Charles. That's well put. And thank you, Pastor Fred Sechewa. It's been an honor to have you around.
Very.
And I'm quite sure that many have picked very, very critical lessons, just judging by the kind of messages that are coming through. It is, again, the Business X-Ray, and we are here to actually bring you real life experiences from people with different backgrounds. And I'm sure today's discussion, like Charles put it, must have really, touched the nerve, like Charles, they say.
I know you are winding up the program.
Please.
I want to appreciate Abbey Development.
Correct.
Abbey Development, when they heard about our dream, they said, wait a minute, let's go for it. Let's protect our environment. Let's take the green challenge back into our farms. How can we reconstruct nature using our farms? So Abbey Development, on behalf of Celebrate Hope Ministries and all our friends, our board, my team at Celebrate Hope Ministries, we thank you for supporting this idea, and we are committed to seeing that we do it and do it well.
Thank you, viewers, and thank you, gentlemen. Until next time, God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.